If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles.
Hello everyone, BM Fox here. 3 days ago, Wednesday the 26th, Call of War has published their new release notes. This is the second release notes patch for this month. Unfortunately, I was sick, so I haven't been able to make a video about it sooner. Now let's jump into it. I'm gonna scroll down here and I'm gonna click on the release notes, which is also already a first change. The release notes are no longer published here on the forum. They're only briefly mentioned, and then they send you towards the support link for the release notes, on which I've just clicked. So, release notes for January the 26th. General, the default fire mode of units produced and controlled by AI has been changed from fire at will to offensive. Now, what does this mean? An artillery unit with fire settings offensive will stop marching as soon as an enemy target is in range, meaning that the AI will now stop marching as soon as you come in range and they will open fire at you. Where in the past the AI artillery would just continue marching and they would bump into your units and they would end up in melee battle, which wasn't pretty realistic because the AI, they couldn't use their artillery like they should. An important remark is that we are talking about offensive fire settings. So you need to be in war with an AI before he's able to open fire at you. So you can just continue playing like we used to. If you are neutral to an AI country, you have nothing to fear. It's only when you are at war with the AI, they will be able to attack you when you are in range. Secondly, there have been quite some balancing upgrades both for AI, for units, and for doctrines. So the AI in event maps starts to act later in the game now. In events with normal speed factor, this happens in in-game 2 or 3, and on speed maps on day 4 instead of day 1. So basically you're gonna have a little bit more time to attack AI before they become more irritating. The likelihood of the AI building many production buildings has slightly been reduced. So the AI, they will waste less on building whatever, and so they will have more resources to build the units. So it's gonna be a little bit more difficult to kill AI, but it's gonna be more realistic, which is great. Supply drops will appear slightly more frequently now. Usually there were only supply drops every 48 hours, which is now changing in a duration every 36 hours. A second advantage is that after the 36 duration, a new supply drop will spawn after 18 hours instead of 24 hours in the past. So you're going to be able to collect those blueprints faster, and you're going to be able to collect more blueprints every game, or more resource crates, depends on the content of your supply drop. Finally, a change on which I have been waiting for a long time. Finally, the paratrooper mobilization times have been reduced now from 6 for 8 or 3 hours depending on the research level of the paratrooper. This is a huge change. The mobilization times have been reduced with 1/3, which finally makes the paratrooper a viable option. Up till now, I have never ever used paratroopers. Because of this, the mobilization times were just too long. If it takes 9 hours to mobilize the enemy, he's already coming at you. Those tactical bombers, they're already patrolling overhead and your paratroopers are doomed to die. This is now over. Not only that, but also the manual converting times have been reduced, meaning that when your paratrooper has landed, has mobilized, and you want to convert the paratrooper unit back into plane to fly to another target, it has become 1 hour faster for every level that you upgrade. The speed of SP rocket artillery and SP anti-air have been increased by 5, and I mean 5, not 5%. When I go to the tech tree, you can see that for level 1 SP rocket artillery, the speed is now 56 kilometers an hour, knowingly that Allies Doctrine already has a speed debuff of 10%, but here we can now add 5 kilometers, which makes it in flat terrain 61 kilometers an hour. The base speed of SP anti-air but also SP artillery is 50 in flat terrains. So here we can now add 5 kilometers, which is a 10% increase increase. But if you look into the mountains and you add 5 kilometers an hour, this makes 25. This is a 25% speed increase, which is amazing. Not only that, for SP artillery, but also their hit points on the 5th level of research have been increased by 5, so they're gonna become harder to kill if you upgrade those units. Now, not only the units, but also the doctrines have been buffed. The production time buff for medium tanks has been increased from 15 to 20%. Of infantry units, it has been increased from 20 to 30%. So now you can produce infantry units as fast as Allies Doctrine, but cheaper. The upkeep cost reduction for infantry units have been increased from 15 to 20%. So they cost 5% less to upkeep, which means you can make more of them. And then finally, for the Comintern Doctrine, a production time buff of 20% was added for rocket artillery units. So also those artillery rocket units, you can produce them faster. This time they have thought about it to immediately also upgrade the Doctrine's explanation here in the wiki. And you can see that for the Comintern Doctrine here, the upkeep costs, they already have been changed. Also, Allies has received buffs. The production cost of mechanized infantry units is reduced by 10%, and the hit points of mechanized infantry units have been increased by 10%. Also in the wiki, if we look in the column for Allies, you can see they have now received this, which is great because the infantry line of Allies was pretty weak. Only their special troops, commandos and paratroopers received the bonus, so this is great. The Axis attack range of railroad guns has been increased with 10%. Not only that, but now the railroad guns move 10% faster. So 10% range, 10% faster. These have become deadly babies. They also have been updated now in the new wiki, and with both 10% attack range and 10% move speed, this has become a very powerful unit in the hands of an Axis player, knowing that the Axis Doctrine already deals an additional damage and has already additional hit points as well. For the Comintern Doctrine, the hit points of attack bombers were increased with 15%, and the production time of attack bombers has been decreased with 15%. This is great because you all know from my previous video of the Comintern Doctrine, I've said that their air force is total trash. They had no unit bonuses, only penalties. Finally, they get a bonus, knowingly that Comintern Doctrine has a lot of bonuses for unarmored units. They are weak against armored units. Now they get a bonus for the plane that counters armored units, so you're gonna be able to protect your unarmored units better. This is a great change for Comintern Doctrine. Finally, also the Pan-Asian Doctrine gets a bonus. The capacity of aircraft carriers has been increased by 1, and the production time of aircraft carriers has been decreased by 20%, meaning that instead of the base capacity of 2, you're gonna have 3 places for planes, and so at level 2 you're gonna have 5 places logically, and the production time is 20% less, meaning you're gonna be able to produce your carriers faster and put more planes on them, so you're gonna be able to invade other countries faster if you wish to take your entire air force with you. Up last, there are also a lot of changes to the beta client. I am not going to go into this because I'm not playing beta yet, so I'm not familiar with this, but you can see Call of War is investing a lot in the beta client, so I expect that soon the legacy client is going to be replaced with the beta client. In my last release notes video, you could see that I've discovered the beta client, and I think it's pretty fancy, so I'm gonna start playing in the beta client because I think soon this is gonna become the main client for Call of War. And then finally, they also made a couple of bug fixes, into which the 2 most important ones are that finally coalition leaders can kick players from their coalition, or they can promote them as well. There have been huge issues with this, and the only solution that there was available for a couple of months was completely disbanding your coalition, making a new one, which resulted in a 72-hour penalty. And also the bug that allowed players to micro jump by abusing merge mechanics has been fixed. Not only that, but also in some games the borders were not displayed correctly on the maps when zoomed out. This also has been fixed, along with some other minor bug fixes. This is it for this video. All in all, great changes, a couple of changes for the doctrines here, which is a bit unfortunate as I have covered a video for all 4 doctrines, so I'll make sure to add all these changes here in the comments and I'm gonna pin them so that every video stays up to date. As usual, I will always try to keep you in the loop with all the last updates and all the changes into the game.